Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. Now I was realising that it's been a while since I've done a Scottish craft beer that hasn't been one of the Brewdog range, and I found this one when I was raking through my local beer shop. This is the Windswept Brewing Company Tornado Citra IPA, and this comes to you from the very small village on the north coast of Scotland called Lossiemouth. Those of you watching inside of the UK will no doubt recognise that name as being one of the RAF bases in Scotland, but for those of you watching outside of the UK, I always describe Scotland as looking like a monster's head. So over in the east, which is by the monster's nose, you have Aberdeen, the oil capital of Europe, and then over where the monster starts to get a bit of a mohawk thing going on, there's a little water inlet, and that's where Inverness is located. It's right on a corner where it basically does that, and then the little water inlet, and then there's Inverness in there. But Lossiemouth is located right on the north coast, in between, right bang in the middle between Aberdeen and Inverness, and it's just north of a slightly bigger town called Elgin, which is a very, very famous cathedral, the Church of the Holy Trinity. So if you're in that part of the country of Scotland, definitely check it out. You can go and visit the brewery, but definitely check out that particular region of the country. As I've said before, the north of Scotland and the west of Scotland are very, very beautiful parts, but a lot of people only ever think to go to Edinburgh. But anyway, now for those of you interested in this brewery, I'll just tell you a little bit about it just now, but if you're simply interested in the tasting of this beer, feel free to fast forward to the last few minutes of the video where you'll catch that. But I'll just tell you a bit about the brewery just now. And there's not much history behind this one, to be honest, because they only started up in 2012, so it's a very, very new craft brewery. But they were known previously as the West Beach Brewery, but this was only for a very short period of the time. But they began putting their brewery together in October 2012, and a month later they received their brewing vessels from Oban Ales in Fort William. But by the end of 2012 they'd actually brewed their first batch of beer, which was the 5% APA. Now the capacity of the brewery is only 3,000 pints per brew, so that gives you an idea. This is a very, very small microbrewery. But they also have a pilot brewery which has a capacity of 150 pints per brew, which is about 4 small barrels, and this is used to produce their test batches of beer. But they experiment as well with new recipes, and also with their established recipes to try and improve them. As that's the whole idea behind the craft beer movement. I know you want to focus on the flavour, not so much on the profit, and this is why craft beer has become so popular in very recent times. But as I said earlier, they're from the local town of they're from a small town called Lossiemouth. Lots of fishing, lots of golf courses, things like that. Definitely worth the visit. But you can actually go and visit the brewery, but they ask that you phone in advance and book your visits. But the website also has an interesting blog where you can keep up to date on the current events at the brewery, and I'll stick the brewery website in the description so you can take a look at that if you're interested. Now the brewery apparently only use grain, hops, yeast and water in their beers. It actually sounds a little bit like the German purity law for beer. But their water source, interestingly, is Speyside water, which is known for producing some of the finest whiskies in the world. It's one of the purest water sources in the world, I understand. But Speyside is a region in the northern part of Scotland between Aberdeen and Inverness, and you actually get a very, very beautiful train journey between these two cities. I would recommend you do it. Stop off at some of the villages and have a little look around. But the region is particularly known for its whisky distilleries. You have Aberlour, Balvenie, Benriach, Benromach, Cardew, Cragganmore, Dallasdew, Glen Grant, Glen Moray, Glenfarclas, Glenfiddich, Glenlivet, Macallan, Speyside, Cooperage and Strathisla. So there's a lot of very famous ones in there. I recognised a few of the names when I did that little bit of research on all of them. I mean, Cragganmore's very famous, Macallan, Speyside, you know. Definitely try some of the whiskies. You have in that region of Scotland, you definitely have to try the whiskies. But as I've said in other videos, there's been a recent boom in Scottish craft beer brewing, and the other breweries in the area include the Cairngorm Brewery in Aviemore and Brewmeister, which is just along to the east in Keith. But obviously there are other craft breweries near Aberdeen and Inverness as well. But anyway, the other Windswept brews include Blonde, which is a 4% pale ale, APA, which is a 5% IPA with a twist. I think they've saying there was some random fruits and things used in there. But there was Wolf, which is a dark and strong ale, and Weizen, which was a 5% wheat beer introduced from Oktoberfest. This is basically a play on the word Oktoberfest, with Moray celebrating Oktoberfest with a beer festival in Elgin Town Hall. So they seem to be, like I say, they've got a few beers on the moment. They're just kind of starting up, so I'll try and get those ones for you at a later date and review those for you as well. But as I said, Lossiemouth is actually Obviously you can see this beer is called Tornado, but Lossiemouth, as I said, is the location of the RAF, one of the RAF bases in Scotland. So I do wonder if the name Tornado comes from the fact that Lossiemouth housed the Panavia Tornadoes for a number of years. They also held the Nimrods and the Search and Rescue for a while, and there was also RAF Kinloss nearby, which shut down in 2012 and was replaced. The RAF were replaced by the Army. But I do wonder if the Tornado is named after the fact that the aircraft were based there. It doesn't actually say on the website, so that would be interesting to know if that is where that name comes from. But anyway, this beer is a 6.4% single hop Citra IPA. It uses the Citra hops, which I actually incidentally talked about in my last video for the Sierra Nevada Kellerweisse, but it uses the Citra hop from Yakima Valley in Washington in the western USA. And apparently this was one of their favourite recipes during their early research for the brewery. But anyway, let's just get on with the tasting of this. I'll let you have a little look at the bottle itself. I'll just bring the camera up again. You can have a little look at the work art on this one. This actually has quite a nice, quite attractive kind of modern label on it. There's nothing really going on the bottle cap. It is just a plain bottle cap there. But as you can see, as I said, brewed in Lossiemouth, Scotland. So yeah, it's a nice looking bottle, I have to say. But let's get this guy out and get him tasted, and we can have a look at it. I'm interested to see how this one tastes in comparison to my last video, the Kellerweisse one. Just obviously it is using the same hop, so hopefully we'll recognise some consistencies in there. This is actually a bit darker than I was expecting it to be. It's more of a kind of caramelly amber colour. I thought it would be quite a fairly bright one compared to as the one yesterday was. But yeah, this looks like a very nice beer, this one, I have to say. It's actually got a bit of a red tint to it, I have to say, as you can see it there. There's a very kind of thin head on it, a little bit foamy, but that's dissipating very quickly. It has some bigger bubbles. There's some visible carbonation in there. As I'm saying, it's a sort of caramelly amber colour, but it does have that kind of hint of a red tint to it, I have to say. In terms of the aroma, it's got a very fruity aroma, I have to say. There is some caramel and resin in there, but the first thing that comes to you is the sort of tropical and citrusy fruits. It's actually a very nice smelling beer. It actually has a smell kind of similar to some of the Brewdog stuff I've had before. It has that same citrusy fruit element to it. So I'm expecting this beer to be kind of have a good bit of hoppiness in it and a good bit of the tropical fruits. Obviously with it being Citra hops, you would expect that. But anyway, let's go on with the taste. Oh no, this is a very sweet beer. As expected, the kind of Citra elements are coming through. The first thing that comes through, it has that good hint of caramel just in the background there, I have to say. But it's got, yeah, it has that, there's a bit of tropical elements within that Citra fruit, as expected. I'm not sure if it's watermelon or kind of what it is, but very citrusy with that note of caramel in the background. There is an element of pininess to it as well. But the flavour, in my opinion, the flavour actually drops a bit in the middle. You get a lot of flavour when you take this one in. It drops off and then it comes back for the aftertaste. Yeah, I would say that's right. I mean, you're getting the citrus and the caramel at the start. It drops off and then it's mainly the caramel with just a kind of hint of the Citra fruit, the Citra hops at the end. It's actually it's quite interesting that way, that the flavour comes, goes and then comes back again. That's quite cool, I have to say. On the mouth, I would say quite medium bodied. It's actually a very smooth one. The carbonation is quite mild on it, but it still has that sort of zippiness to the tongue, I would say, because of the Citra hops. It has that sharp kind of sweetness to it. And it's a very nice beer. I'm quite impressed with this one, I have to say. But it finishes, as I said, the aftertaste on it's got a good bit of flavour in it. It has that dry sort of hoppy, caramelly bitterness at the end, which is really nice. I have to say, I mean, if this is a benchmark for their beers, this is the more recent one they've released, as I understand. But I'm definitely interested to try their other beers in the range. And I mean, for this one being an IPA, it's unusual in the sense that it has that kind of caramel element to it. I'm actually very impressed with this one, and I will definitely, if I see some of the other beers, I'll buy them up and do video reviews of these as well. But as I say, it's unusual in the sense for an IPA being a fruitier beer to have that element of caramel to it. So in a way, this one is quite unique. And I mean, this is one of their first beers that they're producing, and they've done very well with it so far. I have to say I'm very impressed. I will look at getting some more of their beers. But anyway, thanks for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've found this one informative and have quite enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section, incidentally. And yeah, but thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with another beer review. I'll hunt down more of these if I can find them. And it shouldn't be too hard to find in Aberdeen. Lossiemouth isn't too far away. But I'll definitely be back with this brewery, and I have to say, well done to the Windswept Brewing Company of Lossiemouth. Cheers.